Probably the last time I had a legit injury, not even gym related, was I cut my thumb. This little thumb pad, fucking like to the bone. I could see some muscles coming out of it. It was terrible. Reason being, improper cutting tool technique. But I was on a cut, and it was kind of the end of the cut. I was already like a month and a half, or like 2 months in. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, all right, cut over. Let's get some calories in my system so I can have energy to heal this fucker up and get back to doing what I like doing. Not that I was skipping the gym, of course. If it hurts, don't do it. Pretty basic stuff, but sometimes that's kind of the hardest thing to understand. You know, I'm sure you know people like this. Hopefully you aren't people like this, but there's dudes where I'll hear them complain about their shoulder all the time. Dude, my rotator cuff, fuck. Oh, crap, I don't know. It's something in my shoulder, dude. I don't know, but like benching is just, it fucking hurts. Oof. And then as they're telling me this, I'm literally watching them load weight on the bench. It's, maybe not your best move. With this set, I'm really gonna, oh my goodness, I'm really gonna emphasize the squeeze. So I like reps, even for dumbbells, where it's like just fucking swinging the shit around, ton of tension on the biceps. I get super, even just after that first set, I already felt pretty pumped up, right? That's just the kind of set that either I like or just my biceps like, but I still like squeezing sets too. So here, I'm not gonna throw this shit around. Very methodical. As I get to the top, I'm gonna seriously fucking squeeze as if I'm trying to rip my biceps off. Or no, not really rip them off. Maybe pop them? Is that what I'm thinking of? Either way, squeeze really hard, back down nice and slow. Right, that sort of things. So when I sit on the adductor machine, the machine where you squeeze your legs together, that's the same thing as calves. It's kind of a muscle group which I sort of just consider work, like chest, back, arms. I'm getting nice and pumped up. I'm in the zone. But when it's time for calves or adductors, typically when I'm doing them, I'm not playing a fucking Rocky theme song or some Dragon Force, right? I just kind of have to hit them. Now, that's not to say that's necessarily the best approach, right? If your calves are slacking, then you probably got to hit calves with the same intensity that you're hitting everything else. I think this is a tip. I'm just kind of making an observation. But I find hamstring training to be pretty easy for me just because it's not very taxing for me to do hamstrings to failure. Like, for me to do squats to failure, or anybody to do squats for failure, to failure, I mean, sure, quads are killed, but you're I'm thumbing my oars just a touch, but you're systemically fatigued afterwards, right? You got to catch your breath. But after these sets of hamstring curls, I mean, sure, my hamstrings are on fire, and I'm kind of huffing and puffing a little bit, but it's a very efficient movement, if you kind of catch my drift. So I almost feel like I don't want to say I want to only do isolation movements, but I do like potentially kind of leaning towards efficient movements like these, Ooh, they certainly feel fucking tight. So that's what I'm aiming for. Honestly, I want the back of my leg here, this hamstring, I want that to be just as round, if not rounder, than how my quad looks when I, smush it up against my other leg. But either way, definitely on the come up to something. Let's see. Calves are still just a touch sore from when I last hit them, so I'm gonna let them rest. I'm gonna keep them off the chopping block tonight. If you're a dude, I don't know, man. I don't necessarily see a point for you to be just, busting out reps on your glutes on the abductor machine, the abduction machine. Because, you do you, I guess, whatever. You're not going to catch me doing it. I think that's what I'm really trying to say. But adductors, right, squeezing your legs together, sort of thickening up your, well, inner quad, inner thigh. That I like. Just because from the front, of course, if you kind of stand with your, well, anybody with relatively big legs knows this. If you stand like facing a full body mirror and you put your feet kind of like slanted like this, your toes are sort of facing away from each other, then your legs are going to look pretty thick. Like the insides are going to be kind of almost touching the top just because your hamstrings are kind of, you know, facing each other. But if you stand with your feet facing forward and you're looking at yourself, you can, that's how your legs, that's how your quads really look from the front. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? You got to think, the easier, well, the longer you do something, the more efficient you'll be at it, right? The more, well, let's just say the less difficulty it's going to take for you to go through the motions of having a really good lift and pushing your sets really hard. You know, so when I see lifts that are like, or when I see TikToks and it's like, let your demons out, and then, you know, funk edit, blah, 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 blah. If that's what you're into, cool, but I don't know. I say the lifter who can just roll up to the gym because he's excited to lift is going to go way further than somebody who's, you know, in a real, I mean, a really, I don't want to say it, but I do want to say it, a real just kind of depressed, downer mood. Like, oh, I'll show them. Yeah, I'll show them. I mean, look, if I were to sit here and make the sort of constraint on the set as just go as hard until I can't do one more complete rep, it'd still be a good set. I mean, you know, the reps would slow down. I'd really have to fight to get up here. But for whatever reason, actually not whatever reason, for the reason of the fact that I just get a crazier pump doing little partials at the end after burning out, well, that's what I'm going to do. But if your prerogative is to make every set have perfect reps, look, sure, that's sick, man. I get kind of loose with my form, but that's just because it's what I like, right? You got to do whatever the fuck you want. Because it sounds cool, you know, your muscle doesn't know how heavy the weight is. It only knows how heavy it feels. That's cool logic. Or it sounds cool. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're still not lifting that much weight. So I like the idea of that. I do kind of implement it a little bit, but I'm not exactly sure that it's going to replace a fresh, heavy set. This was for sure my best quad pump as of late, with the no doubts, no ifs, ands, or buts. Well, I guess one but it did not come into play because I do not do any direct glute work. But let's see how we're looking. So not done. I'm still gonna go do adductors, these little inner muscles, whatever. But just overall, I'm certainly not dissatisfied. So let's just run through one or two and then get out of here. Perfect. I feel like the videos I see of people talking about taking, you know, 3, 4, however many scoops of pre-workout, which taking extra doses of like the citrulline and the pump ingredients, it's not going to change their effectiveness. There's pretty much a maximum absorption, which, like, you know, 6 grams of so-and-so, you get the most out of it.